Yeah, it's the KLAY 1180 AM morning show for a Friday. Because it's a Friday, I thought we could talk some music. And the music scene is very active here in Tacoma. Hip-hop is a big part of that, and I have the pleasure right now of being joined on the KLAY Morning Show by Rockwell Powers, who is very active here in the Puget Sound hip-hop scene. He's released 3 full-length albums. He's done more than 150 shows. Well, thanks for being on the show, Rockwell. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I had no idea that there was such a big hip-hop community here in Tacoma. Now, I got to be honest, full disclosure here, not a fan of hip-hop, but I'm trying to learn more about it and understand it. That's why I wanted you to come on the show.
Yeah, it all ebbs and flows, like a lot of, kind of DIY independent communities and art forms in Tacoma. There can be a few years when something is really strong, and then it'll fade and something else comes up. So, all these culture in Tacoma kind of maybe isn't as sustainable as we'd like, but different things are ebbing and flowing. And right now, you're right, there's a lot of really exciting hip-hop music being made in town right now.
Is there a difference between hip-hop in Tacoma and, say, Seattle?
Well, yeah. I think that it's problematic, for any genre of music or really, genre of art or art medium to compare it to Seattle. In Seattle, you have, one of the, most established local art communities in the country, or probably in the world, for a city of that size. And there's a culture that's deeply ingrained in the city. The city's enormous. And you have a consumer base that Tacoma doesn't have, of a population of hundreds of thousands of people under 35, under 30, who have the disposable income to support local art and music. So there's a lot of things that Tacoma doesn't have. I think it gets problematic when we compare ourselves to Seattle versus comparing ourselves to other cities with 200,000 people.
What about in terms of the content and theme of the music?
I don't know. I think that Seattle and Tacoma bear the same resemblances. There's just a lot of musicians that fall in line with theme and content of independent hip-hop all over the country and all over the West Coast. I don't see Tacoma being that influenced by Seattle, because, other than a couple artists, I don't think Seattle really has the defining sound as much as they think they do, versus having a couple artists who are really well known, and those artists just sort of being tagged the Seattle sound, versus these artists sound the way they do, but it's not as though Seattle has just droves of artists that sound like Macklemore. He's kind of a 1 in a million guy.
Yeah.
So it's not like that's the Seattle sound. It's just that's what they're known for. It's not like maybe when you have a band come out of Seattle and there literally are 50 other bands that sound like that. It's not really that way with hip-hop. And it's really diverse in both cities. Seattle and Tacoma both have phenomenal, really gangster rap artists, or, people all over the rap spectrum. And so there's not like one prevailing content line or different things in Seattle and Tacoma hip-hop.
For someone who's not a fan of rap, how can you tell a talented rap artist from an untalented rap artist?
That's a good question. I think just a lot of things, but just kind of overall comfort and rhythm on top of the music and production. And most people, even if you haven't been looking for it, seeking it out, but just even through cinema and pop culture, you've heard enough rap to know when someone just sounds really, really comfortable on top of the music, or if someone's kind of struggling and doesn't sound really natural. And then also for me, it'd be just a matter of not authenticity in so much as, is this person really do what they say they do in rap, what they're rapping about? 'Cause I think that's stupid. I think that's people misreading rap. But authenticity in so much as, do they believe what they're saying? Are they enthusiastic about what they're saying? Things like that. And it doesn's have to be reflected in volume or things like that in terms of delivery, but just sort of a comfort level of how they're an MC is going about their business on the music.
Because authenticity, that is the one thing I do know about the hip-hop community. That is very important for credibility.
Well, It is. We're sort of getting away from it too. I mean, a lot of that was sort of really fake. I mean, in so much as hip hop really is just it's a lot of storytelling and character writing, and people, and one thing that kind of novice hip hop fans kind of get confused about is that hip hop is a lot of storytelling in the first person, and so people are playing different characters, and just like you're performing in the first person, just how an actor is acting in the first person. And so to believe that, a Jay-Z or a famous rapper or even like an independent rapper is in fact the person that they're rapping about in the first person in their music is just as naive to think that Denzel Washington is his character in Training Day, and that's who he is.
Yeah,
meet
right.
him on the street. Like, this really, really is art. And so, and I think that comes into play definitely when you're talking about, controversy over violent hip-hop lyrics and, or drug-ridden hip-hop lyrics. You're not going to, Eminem is, no different than a film director. So if you're not going to hold Quentin Tarantino to the same standards
Sure.
as a writer that you're holding Eminem to, it's really no different. And just because one is a more threatening or alternative art form that's done in the first person, it's really no different. They're just kind of writing, totally just made up, hypothetical, kind of fantasy type storylines.
I've got a question from our newsman, Charlie Land. His son writes a lot of material. How can he get help? How can he hone his craft?
That's a good question. I would say just being in community with other people who are doing it, with people who he thinks, are doing it at a level that he would aspire to. I mean, it's sort of like as a young athlete, as a basketball player or something like that, you don't get better by just playing with people who are on your level or under. You get better by playing with the older kids. You get better by, practicing with the varsity if you're on the JV. So, I mean, I would just say trying to actually physically be in community with other people who are students of hip-hop and trying to get better at the art, and just listening real critically to the artist that he's listening to, and just kind of trying to fill in the gaps between where he's at and what they're doing artistically, and going to shows. I got my phone. I think going to shows is really important for producers and MCs, and just seeing how people carry themselves and how people rap, and just the whole experience of it. I think going to shows is really important.
Where's the best place to see a show in Tacoma?
In Tacoma, right now in Tacoma, and you and I talked about this a little bit off the air, but there's kind of a venue issue in Tacoma. There's been kind of a venue issue for independent hip-hop, not independent hip-hop, but for like local hip-hop, since the old Hell's Kitchen on 6th and Proctor closed about whatever that was, 4 years ago now. So we do shows, kind of pop-up shows all over the place. Could be in clothing boutiques, could be in, music venues. My next show is at Grit City Grindhouse on June 21st. But I guess I'm talking about going to shows too. I mean, sort of, like, definitely also like kind of national artists who are on tour and stuff like that. And those shows are more to be found in Seattle.
Let's talk about your last album. What was it, 2013?
Yeah, just last October it came out.
And what is that process like? What's the recording process like for an independent artist?
It depends. And this last album took me the longest, partially because the older I get, the more kind of meticulous I am about my writing and different things. I used to just pump out pages and pages of lyrics constantly and record them. It used to be a much quicker, easy process. But we were working on songs for that album for about a year and a half, and I was working a lot and still in school and had a lot of distractions. So it took a while to come together, which can be the case with local musicians because we all have jobs and lives and don't get to prioritize music the way we would like to. But yeah, my last album, and it came out with DJ Finesty, who's a producer and singer who lives over in Tacoma, who we actually met at PLU. And so it has both of our names on it, and he created all the music, and all the music's original on the album. There's only one song on the album that has a sample, that's kind of a new wave in hip hop too, is the focus on entire 100% original production. So we feel good about that. And yeah, it's been really well received locally here in Tacoma and Seattle, and a lot of blogs and media have liked it, and we're having fun. Still doing a lot of shows to support it.
Rockwell, where can we find it?
You can find it at rockwellpowers.com or iTunes or Spotify or Amazon. The album's called Build. Yep, and so if you just look up Rockwell Powers, you'll be able to find that.
Rockwell, thank you for coming on the KLAY 1180 AM morning show and educating me on hip-hop
No
and
doubt.
hip-hop in Tacoma. Very active here in the Puget Sound area, and I want to know about it. So thanks for coming on the air and talking to me.
All right, thanks, Ty.
Have a great weekend.
You too.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say.